Welcome back. Markets in a fine spot, so let's deal with issues economic, or rather issues on the economy. Hiring. To get a sense on IT hiring and staffing trends, and to find out general hiring trends, whether there has been a slowdown in hiring, we now speak with Ajit Isaac, Chairman and Managing Director and CEO of Quess Corp. Good morning, Mr. Isaac. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, first let me begin with overall hiring, and then I'll come to IT services, where we are more genuinely interested at the moment. What's been the hiring trend? Are you noticing any slowdown at all?
Good morning, and good to be on your show again. It's actually been a sort of dichotomous development in hiring across Quess when compared to the market. This year, in the first half, we hired almost about 59,000 people incrementally to our workforce, against 56,000 for the whole of the last 12 months. So in 6 months, we've actually added what we've done in the whole of the last 12 months last year. We hire on an average close to about 20,000 people a month now. And we've reached a workforce size of 380,000 people as of November, so which means we are perhaps India's largest domestic employer today with 380,000 people. The trends in non-IT seem to be better than in IT itself. We seem to be, there's actually movement into our workforce, let's say from 2 or 3 sources. One is we're getting more market share from competition. Second is there is a movement of employment from the informal sector to the formal sector. And in that movement, post demonetization, GST, and the overall need for compliance, we seem to be getting more of that because of our nationwide spread. And lastly, there's a tendency in companies today to go for players that are more compliant and have no issues on let's say regulatory matters. So as a result of which, our workforce size is growing up, and we think that we'll continue to see about at least a 30% growth, both in EBITDA definitely for the year.
Okay, 30% growth in EBITDA for the year. So for the second half of the year, what kind of people additions are you expecting, and the yield per person as well? You mentioned 20,000 employees is what you've hired, but I didn't get the timeline. For the second half, what are you looking at?
So the second half is usually, by headcount, it is a slightly lesser period in terms of number of people that we add, because the large part of the hiring that takes place is for the festival season that ends towards October, November. And then December and January, there's a bit of a slowdown. But in February and March, usually it picks up again. And there are certain activities in our businesses which see peak period activity then. For example, collections in banks, or let's say in academics, where there is more consumption of food, and also in terms of attendance in hostels. So we tend to see greater EBITDA improvement in the fourth quarter. In terms of number of people, we think we will continue almost the same growth. We think we'll finish with closer to about 400,000 people for the end of the year.
Okay. Now, 1 minute. You said 59,000 for all of the first 6 months. The annual addition would be how much in that case?
So last year we finished with about 320,000, and right now we are at about 380,000. So we added, let's say, about 60,000 people in 6 months' time. And we expect to add another, let's say, 20 to 25,000 in the second half at least.
Okay. Mr. Isaac, if you can give us a little more color. You gave us a broad brush that non-IT has done better than IT. What's the growth in IT itself and the other sectors that have done well?
Yeah, so IT's, in the IT sector, you have to break it down by parts. First, there is the Indian IT services companies. Then there are the product companies and ones that use IP, largely in their work. Third one is those companies which are captives and are like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, etc., which set up large captives here to service their international in-house requirements. And the fourth one is e-commerce and related internet ventures. So if you see across the 4 of them, IT services has seen the least growth in employment. The largest growth we're seeing is in captives, followed by e-commerce companies.
Okay.
And outside of IT?
So in outside of IT, we've added a lot of people in the banking and financial services sector this year. Consumer seems to be again good because as there's a slowdown in the economy, companies want to variabilize costs. Okay. So in this process, they want to move more of their workforce to a flexi staffing mode. There's an interesting point here. There are two moments in Quess when we've seen a slowdown in the economy. One was in 2008, 2009 with the global financial crisis, and now. In both these situations, we've seen actually an accelerated growth, which means that empirically, companies tend to look to variabilize their costs and look to companies like us for staffing their HR requirements.
Okay, that makes sense as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac, for joining us with both your macro and micro observations. We have to wind down on Bazaar, but before that, a quick look at the financials of Quess Corp itself. They'll come up for you very quickly. That's the income revenue performance. You'll get the bottom line performance as well. Profit after tax, Quess Corp, last year a little bit under pressure, and the earnings per share for the company. Are there any comparisons? No, I don't think. So we have to edit with the markets, but that's in a very sweet spot.
Absolutely. So 0.5% higher for the Sensex, Nifty and the mid-cap index. We leave the market in a good place. With that, it is curtains down on Bazaar. But don't go anywhere. There's lots coming up on the other side of the break on our show Chartbusters.